Hey everyone, it's JC from Live Chiropractic. We are talking today in this video about food testing or reintroducing food after you've had a time of elimination to see what triggers you. So you may be doing this as part of our gut health program, or you may be doing it even after a 21-day standard process cleanse just to test, and before you start reintroducing foods into your diet like crazy, just to test what is inflammatory for you. Now, first we need to talk about 3 different types of inflammatory foods. First, you can have a food allergy. Now that is when it is an immune reaction. You go into anaphylactic shock. You need an EpiPen, like you can't touch that thing at all, or your body responds like hardcore. And you probably know if you have a food allergy. So you don't really need this video to tell you that, right? So what we're testing for are 2 other things: food sensitivities and food intolerance. Those are the 2. Now let me explain. So a food intolerance is super easy to test for. In fact, you probably already know this as well. A food intolerance is not an immune reaction. It's just when you eat something and your body, it says no, and 30 to 45 minutes after you eat, you start having gas, bloating, pain in your stomach. You can tell someone pretty, like, I didn't eat something that agreed with me. Now, you may not know exactly what it is if you had a meal of several things, and so you may have to do individualized testing, like as you're reintroducing foods. If it reacts with you right away in your stomach and you're like, ooh, that does not agree with me, that is a food intolerance. You can just do that through a food journal, through just writing down and journaling your reaction right after, within a half an hour to 45 minutes after you eat foods, okay? Food intolerance. Food sensitivity is different. Food sensitivity is an immune reaction in the body, but it may not manifest itself when you eat that food. If you are sensitive to it, it may not be instant pain and bloating. It could take a couple of days to manifest in your body with different kinds of symptoms, not just tummy symptoms. When it's a food sensitivity, it may be brain fog. It may be headaches, or it can be a whole list of things. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put a list of symptoms to look for in the description box of this video, so that if you're testing for food sensitivities, I want you to see a whole list of things to look for within the next couple of days. So the hard thing about doing food sensitivity testing is you can't just test one food, the next day test the next food, because that first food may take a few days to show that it's sensitive. And so you kind of have to spread out the food testing, give it a few days, see how you feel, see if anything funky happens. Fatigue, weakness, migraines, like a lot of different things. Skin rashes, psoriasis, like that's why I'm going to put the list below. The other way you can test for food sensitivity is through something called the Coca Pulse Test. Now, this was developed by Arthur Coca, a man back in the 50s, a doctor who was he developed this test to test for his wife's allergies and sensitivities. So it just goes off of your pulse. It uses a little pulse oximeter, just like that. If you are doing our gut health program, this is coming with the program. If not, you can pick these up super cheap on Amazon. Pulse oximeter. It's like $15 or something. So what we're going to do, this is how you do it. And you can look online, COCA, the Coca Pulse Test. You can look for more about that if you want to learn more about how it works. But what we're going to do is, before you test your first food, let's say you've been eliminating foods for several weeks and you're ready to start testing. Before you test, days before you do that, I want you to play around with this a little bit. Try to get your pulse, just stick it on there, hit the button, and look. Your pulse is the, oh, I don't have my glasses on. Your pulse is the top number, right? And it says pulse and oxygen. Yeah, the pulse is the top number. So I want you to play with it and see what a normal resting pulse is for you. So you get it over different times, so you kind of see your rhythms, where your general levels are. Don't wait until the first day that you test to play with this, because then you'll be like, wait, is that a normal number? Am I nervous from testing? Am I nervous like, oh no, okay, I gotta test. Is it going up just from that? You need to be familiar with what your general resting heart rate is. So test it at different times when you're on the couch, just relaxing, test it. Sit and breathe for a few minutes, test it, so that you kind of have a baseline as you begin testing. So the day that you're going to test, it's got to be a couple hours after you eat. It's not right after you've eaten. Give it some space, get the food that you're going to test, and you need to sit in a place that's calm. If your family is going crazy around you and there's someone in the kitchen telling you a crazy story that could raise your pulse rate, you need to have a calm, quiet place to test where you are relaxed. And I want you to give it through 3 to 5 minutes to just breathe. So you are going to take a baseline pulse test. So what you do after you've kind of sat there, you've got everything ready, 3 to 5 minutes, you know, you're resting, you're calm, do a resting heart rate test with the pulse. Now, when you do this, I have been taught a different way to do it, and that's more accurate. So when you push it, I don't just want you to wait and see what number shows up on the pulse. See that little red line? Now you know what my pulse is. It's probably high because I'm recording this. See that little red, joop, joop, joop. That is what you're going to count to get your resting heart rate. So I want you to push the button and then slowly start counting for 60 seconds. Now, I didn't say that part. You do need a timer because you're going to test for 60 seconds. So that's part of the equipment. Maybe I'll put an equipment list in the box below of what you need to test. You'll need that. You need a timer. You need the food you're going to test. It's pretty easy. So go for 60 seconds, get your baseline. Then what you're going to do, just breathe for a minute, calm, bring your heart rate back down, and just get ready to test the food. Put it in your mouth and hold it for 30 seconds. Now that's hard because your salivary glands are going to want to eat it. It's hard to hold it for 30 seconds, but use your timer. We want to see, now if it is inflammatory to the body, your sympathetic nervous system is going to notice that. Your body's smart. It's going to notice that right away, and it's going to raise your pulse. So you should see, so after you hold it in your mouth for 30 seconds, then test. Then do a 60-second test again. You're going to just put it on there, hit the button, count for 60 seconds how many of those red lines that you get. Once you have done that, you can spit the food out. If it's inflammatory, you don't want to eat it. You don't want to eat it, then it can hit your body and go into your system. We don't want that. So spit it out, rinse out your mouth so you don't have that food in your mouth. And that's how you test for that. Now, if your pulse goes up like 6 points or more, then you know it's inflammatory for you. I've seen some practitioners say 8, but 6 is a safer kind of, you don't want to mess around with that. If it's 5, don't freak out. Maybe test again. I know Dr. Tolman and I were talking, and he had one food where he tested 3 times because he wanted to make sure that he was getting the right result, and it was always elevated for that food, and it was a food he didn't know he was sensitive to. So if you aren't quite sure, just wait a little while, just 5-10 minutes, do it all over again. Rinse your mouth out, but test it. Make sure you're in calm, relaxed state, do the test, and see if your pulse raises up 6 or more points. Now, I have talked to patients that this was just overwhelming, that this pulse test was hard and they just couldn't tell. And it's like, I can't tell I've just had patients that were frustrated. If you want to, you can just do the journal method to test for sensitivities. Just get a food journal. But the thing that you have to realize is if you're doing our gut program, our Trust Your Gut program, then you need to, they have you test a new food every day on the schedule. There's a schedule in the booklet that says test this food this day, this food this day. But if you're only going to do it by watching your body and journaling about how you feel after each food, that's okay. There's ways to do that. Like that's absolutely, just eat a little bit and just see how you do. But you'd have to spread out that calendar. You'd have to test a food, give it 2 or 3 days, then test another food and give it 2 or 3 days. Just to see, so that you have the information you need to see if you're sensitive. Now, the other cool thing is that if you see that you have a food sensitivity, it can be healed. It doesn't mean you can't eat it for the rest of your life. Especially the better that if you get your gut more healed and your symptoms are clearing up and you're getting your inflammation to come down in your body and you're feeling like things are calming down, you can retest that food every like 3 months. See if you still react to it. The other thing too is with some sensitivities, the dose is what matters. You may be able to eat a few and your pulse won't, it won't really affect your body. But if you eat it in higher quantities, then you have an immune reaction and then you see the symptoms that we talked about in that list below in the description box. So it's not a life sentence just because you see that you have a food sensitivity. Stay on top of it. It might just be because your gut is in an inflamed state right now and it's not balanced. It's not where it needs to be. And so it's not tolerating a lot of things. And as you become more familiar with how to heal your body, as we talk and working with us or whatever you're doing to kind of calm that down, you can retest. So don't panic. I hope that's everything. I hope I covered most of the stuff, the questions. Good luck. If you're frustrated, come give us a call, talk to Dr. Tolman or I, and we can help you through this. It's not that scary. I promise you can do it. Good luck with it. Thanks.